Welcome back to another Five Nights at Freddy's theory, and today I want to talk about how the Vanni mask might be the key to figuring out one of FNAF 4's biggest mysteries. That mystery being, what exactly is the Fredbear Plush? You know, the one that MatPat calls,
"He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who are you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear."
Now, how exactly did I connect the Vanni mask to the Fredbear Plush? Well, it all started with the Help Wanted 2 Secret of the Mimic teaser. After collecting all the puzzle pieces throughout Help Wanted 2 and bringing those pieces together in order to create two separate images, the objects in those images then show up in the room with us. A mysterious van that happens to have the Mexis machine inside of it, along with a mysterious building that seems to be some sort of gift shop. Now, there were a couple of things that really piqued my interest with this gift shop. One of them being the stained glass window that has a blue Bonnie head instead of a yellow one like we would expect when sitting next to a Fredbear head. And the fact that the puzzle and the building don't seem to match one another. The puzzle doesn't seem to have the stained glass window that I just mentioned, and it has a different paint job on the wall, and the letters on the signs don't have the same colors. But the detail that I found that was important for this theory is the literal sign pointing towards masks in a game where you constantly put on and take off the Vanni mask. So what am I saying exactly? That the Vanni mask existed way back in 1979? That's not possible, right? I mean, it's not like FNAF has had masks all the way back in the early part of the timeline. That's right, Mike and his friends all used masks in FNAF 4, just 4 years after the supposed date of Secret of the Mimic. Masks have been a thing since FNAF 2 whenever we first use a mask as a defense mechanism, and almost every game since then, there has been a mask that has shown up. FNAF 2, we wear a mask as a defense mechanism against the animatronics. FNAF 3, there is a box of masks in the corner of the office, as well as all the kids needing to wear masks during Happiest Day. FNAF 4, Mike and his friends all wear masks whenever Dave is put into Fredbear's mouth. FNAF's sister location, Ennard, needs to steal the mask from the main office room. FNAF Help Wanted, we earned the Vanni mask after beating the Dreadbear DLC. FNAF Security Breach, Vanni then wears that mask in order to try and hunt down Gregory. FNAF Ruin, Cassie then puts on the Vanni mask and we wear it the entire game. FNAF Help Wanted 2, Cassie's father puts on that same mask the entire game. And Into the Pit even has a mask that we can find in the house. What I'm trying to say is that masks are very prevalent throughout FNAF, and the fact that we are getting a game that has a mask mechanic that is also teasing the next game with a literal sign that says masks pointing towards the building, and we have this weird clipping knockoff that Fazbear Entertainment created, it makes me think that maybe these masks, the Vanni masks, might have been around for a little bit longer than we initially thought. Now this, along with the idea that me and many other theorists seem to agree on in some way or another, that the personas that are created after putting the mask on seem to be able to persist outside of the human body, similar to what we see in the Help Wanted 2 ending where Vanni crushes the glitch trap virus. Vanessa doesn't seem to be connected to this at all, but Vanni is a different story. Vanni is her own thing now. Now, this made me think that maybe if Vanni can persist outside of the human body and the masks that we have existed way before we initially thought, then maybe, just maybe, that thing that we saw back in Into the Pit, where GGY was atop every scoreboard, maybe it wasn't an Easter egg. Maybe GGY existed way before any of us initially thought. Now, you're probably saying to yourself right now, Terminal, Into the Pit isn't connected to FNAF 4 in any way. How are you going to talk about the Fredbear plush? And that is an excellent question, because originally I was not going to talk about FNAF 4 until I was watching a certain live stream. Now, just a few weeks ago, T-Dreads and Narrow Raven were both hosting a live stream where some of the best FNAF theorists showed up to debate pretty much anything. Your boy was a little bit busy trying to edit the not so perfect FNAF timeline, which if you haven't watched, you definitely should. And then I came across this part of the live stream while editing.
Okay, so my opinion on Psychic Friend Fredbear, hear me out. That brain chip, you know how Helpy talks to you? What if William put a little brain chip inside Bite Victim? I just came up with that on the fly.
Insanity.
Now, obviously, you should check out all the creators that were in that live stream, but this one in particular, JoJo or something? No, that's actually her name. She was the one to come up with an idea that even I thought was crazy for a minute. And I'm the one who made a video saying that Phasgoo is canon to the games. But then I thought about it for a little bit, and then I realized that maybe the idea wasn't so crazy, especially thinking about all the stuff that we've already talked about before in this video. It made me think that maybe Dave did have a brain chip in his head, and Fredbear was just basically his version of Helpy. I mean, it makes much more sense in my opinion, considering that we can see this thing in places that it shouldn't be. Like in a flower, we hear this thing even though it's not in the same room with us most of the time. And we can see and hear this thing after Dave has already went into his coma. It also completes the trinity of experiments that we see William conducting on his own kids in order to try and perfect hallucination technology. Sort of. It at least connects each of his kids to a different type of hallucination technology, which leads me to believe that he's experimenting on his own kids to try and figure out which one could be the best one to use. Mike breathes in the nightmare experiments in FNAF 4, causing him to see the nightmare animatronics. Dave has a chip put into his head, causing him to see and hear Fredbear no matter where he goes. And while Elizabeth in the games isn't connected to illusion discs, because we really haven't seen illusion discs, she is connected to them in the Silver Eyes trilogy. After she possesses Baby, she uses illusion discs many times in order to try and hide her true form from other characters. And before you say, but Dave doesn't wear any sort of mask that we've seen in FNAF 4, you're right, we haven't seen him wear a mask in FNAF 4, but in FNAF 3, that's a different story. In the Happiest Day minigame, whenever you collect all the other spirits and bring the crying child cake, he finally puts on the Golden Freddy mask. And I think that this is Dave because if you flip the Happiest Day minigame, you get the same layout to the FNAF 4 minigames where he's dragged off to the end of the hallway to get bitten by Fredbear. This Happiest Day is supposed to be his happiest day, the birthday that he didn't get. Whoa, hang on one second. What about that dang Fredbear plush and the walkie-talkie sitting right next to it in sister location? I'm sure you didn't remember that thing, and that there proves that somehow William was communicating with his son. You think I'm not ready to talk about the Fredbear plush and the weird walkie-talkie thing in the sister location office? I am so ready to talk about those things because I think it gives us a good reason as to why Fredbear speaks in two different colors. Because while the plush itself is most likely the inspiration that William used in order to create the avatar that Dave sees, the walkie-talkie itself was the thing that was holding me back. Like, I had no idea how I was going to be able to explain this thing. It obviously was some sort of way that William was communicating to Dave. It just didn't make sense to me because we see William trying to help a different person into one of the suits at the establishment, which means that he couldn't be talking to Dave at the exact same time that that's occurring. But then why would the walkie-talkie be next to the Fredbear plush? It just wasn't adding up for me. And then I remembered the color yellow and how Scott changed the text color on the very last message that we see from the Fredbear plush. Oh, you still need me to explain it for you. So the Fredbear plush text is the exact same color throughout all of FNAF 4 except for the last message that he sends to us right before Dave dies. And then I remembered that there are two very similar but very distinct versions of Helpy talking to us in Ruin. The regular version that we see that normally comes with the mask, and the weird glitched out version that the Mimic is using in order to communicate to us without us realizing. This weird text color change is just the exact same thing that we see in Ruin with Helpy. They're both similar enough that somebody probably wouldn't notice, but they're distinct enough to show that somebody else is communicating with us. William put in some sort of weird backdoor access into the brain chip. That way he'd be able to communicate directly to his son in case of some sort of emergency. Like, I don't know, his son being in a coma and not being able to communicate with the outside world. That means that all of the messages from the Fredbear plush in FNAF 4 are coming from this weird Fredbear helpy AI thing that William created, which makes sense whenever we get to the last few messages that he said in FNAF 4, where he's saying things like, "You're broken, I can fix you." But that last message specifically doesn't come from the Fredbear plush. That is whenever William steps in order to say, "I will put you back together." And with that, I'm going to leave this video here. Special thank you to JoJo for letting me steal her idea, because even though, yes, I still think it's a crazy idea, I still think it has great potential. And thank you to Narrow Raven for allowing me to steal a clip from the live stream. Links to both of them should be found down below. And since you're already heading down there, why don't you go ahead and like the video and hit the subscribe button so you can see more of my content in the future. Thanks for watching to the very end, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!